Microsoft Teams ping hit my phone while I was rinsing a coffee mug in the break room sink, and the preview said, "Where is the client deck?" And my stomach dropped because I knew it was not my job anymore, and I stayed quiet anyway. My name is Waverly. I am 27 years old, and I work as a data analyst at a mid-sized software company that sells inventory tools to big retailers. People hear data analyst and they imagine charts and calm meetings and maybe a little stress at the end of the month. What they do not picture is me, alone in a fluorescent office at midnight, watching error logs scroll like a slot machine, praying the production pipeline does not fail again before morning. But that had become my normal. It started when our lead engineer quit on a Wednesday, right after lunch, right after the company-wide meeting where my manager smiled and said, we were entering an exciting new chapter. The lead engineer was gone by Friday. His badge stopped working. His desk looked like a mouth with teeth missing. The next Monday, my manager Sterling called me into a glass conference room and lowered his voice like he was about to give me a compliment. "We are lean right now, Waverly, but you are reliable. I need you to help hold the line." Hold the line sounded heroic. It sounded temporary. It sounded like a favor that would be noticed. What it actually meant was this. I wrote the weekly client reports even though the client team was not mine. I fixed the nightly build failures because someone had to. I taught 2 brand new interns how to run basic queries while I was trying to finish my own work. I answered messages at all hours because Sterling liked to send urgent notes late at night, and if you did not answer fast enough, he would ask if you were committed. At first I did it because I cared. Then I did it because I was scared. Then I did it because if I did not, everything would break, and Sterling would find a way to make that my fault. Every time something went right, Sterling took the win. He would walk into leadership meetings with my work in his hands like it had grown there naturally. I would watch him speak over a slide I made, using my phrases, my recommendations, my warnings. He would say, "We tightened the process." He would say, "We stabilized the system." He would never say my name. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I was building leverage. I told myself I would ask for a raise at the right time, when budgets opened up, when the timing was perfect, when Sterling could not say no without looking like the kind of boss everyone hates. Then one Thursday, after another night of build failures and a morning of intern questions and an afternoon of client panic, I sat across from Sterling with my hands folded so he could not see them trembling. I kept my voice polite. I kept my eyes steady. I said I wanted a market adjustment. I said I had been performing beyond my role for months. I said I had documentation. I said I wanted to stay, but I needed the pay to match the work. Sterling did not even blink. He leaned back, nodded slowly, and gave me a lecture that felt practiced. Budgets are tight. Everyone is feeling it. I wish I could do more, but you need to focus on your core responsibilities. Do your job as outlined in your contract. Everything else is noise. He said it like he was doing me a favor, like money was a distraction, and he was teaching me maturity. Something cracked in me, but nothing showed on my face. I just nodded like I understood. I asked one question quietly. "So you want me to stick to my job description?" Sterling smiled. "Exactly." I left his office with my cheeks burning and my chest aching like I had swallowed something sharp. In my car, I sat with the engine off and stared at my own reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked older than they should have. I felt humiliated, but underneath that, anger started to rise, slow and clean. Not loud drama anger, clear anger, the kind that makes you careful. That night, I opened my contract at my kitchen table. I read every line. I highlighted the section labeled Core Responsibilities. It was clean and narrow. Data analysis, monthly reporting, internal dashboards, cross-team collaboration as needed. I took screenshots. Then I wrote an email to Sterling, calm as a lake. "Thank you for meeting today. Per your instruction, I will focus strictly on core responsibilities. Outlined in my contract effective immediately. Please confirm." I sent it before my courage could run away. Sterling replied within minutes. "Confirmed. Focus on your core responsibilities." He gave me the rope and he did not even notice. The next day I did exactly what he said. I did my job. I did not check the error logs for the nightly build. I did not touch the legacy scripts that ran the client export. I did not answer the interns when they flooded my inbox with panicked questions. One of them, a sweet kid named Holland, asked if I could hop on a call because the pipeline had turned red again. I stared at the message until the little typing dots disappeared. My heart wanted to help. My stomach twisted. My palms got damp. Then I remembered Sterling's smile. I replied, "I cannot. Please check with Sterling." I pressed send. It felt wrong. It felt like leaving a baby on a doorstep, but it also felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. By mid-morning, Teams looked like a war zone. Messages stacked up, tags, pings. A calendar invite appeared titled Emergency Sync. Sterling called me twice. I let it ring. Then I sent one message, polite and cold. "I am currently focused on core responsibilities per your written instruction. Let me know what you would like reprioritized within that scope." He did not answer that. He just kept calling. And then the first micro twist hit. A message popped up from someone I did not expect. Reed. He worked in client success. He was not my friend exactly, but he had always been decent. "Hey, not trying to stir anything. Sterling is telling people you forgot the client export again. Just wanted you to know, again, like it was a repeated mistake. Like I had been careless. Like I was the reason things were unstable." I stared at Reed's message, feeling heat crawl up my neck. Shame tried to attach itself to me, the old reflex. The urge to fix it fast so everyone would stop looking. But I did not fix it. Instead, I opened my email. I pulled up Sterling's confirmed instruction. I took another screenshot with the timestamp visible. Then I saved it into a folder on my desktop labeled calm. I replied to Reed with one sentence. "Thank you. I have written instruction from Sterling to prioritize only contract duties." Reed did not respond, but I saw the check mark. Around lunchtime, Holland appeared at my desk, holding her laptop like it weighed too much. "Waverly, I think something is wrong with the client dashboard. It is blank." Her voice cracked on the word blank. She looked scared, not of the dashboard, but of what would happen because it was blank. I softened my face. I did not want to punish her. I said, "Did Sterling assign you to that?" She hesitated. "He said you usually handle it. He said you know it best." I nodded slowly. I kept my voice gentle. "If he wants me to handle it, he needs to assign it within my role scope, in writing. Please tell him that." Holland's eyes widened, like I had just revealed a secret rule no one else knew. She walked away, and I watched her shoulders slump and guilt tugged at me. That guilt was the hook Sterling used on me for months. But guilt is not a job description. The second micro twist came that afternoon. When I got an automatic notification from HR system, role document updated, my throat tightened. I clicked so fast my finger missed the trackpad the first time. There it was, a revised job description uploaded under my profile. The title was still data analyst, but the responsibilities had quietly expanded. Operational support, on-call coverage, client deliverables, mentorship leadership of junior staff, system stabilization. It was my unpaid extra work, typed neatly into a list, like it had always belonged to me. My hands went cold. I felt violated in a way I did not have a word for, like someone had rearranged my identity while I was asleep. Sterling had tried to change the paper after the conversation. I did not confront him. I did not storm into his office. I took screenshots. I captured the update history. I grabbed the timestamp. I downloaded a copy. Then I messaged HR, one sentence, neutral and innocent. Hi. I received a notification that my role document was updated. Could you please confirm who requested this change and when it was approved? That was all. No accusations. No anger. Just a question that made the truth step forward on its own. By late afternoon, Sterling sent a calendar invite titled Alignment Meeting. Attendees included me, Sterling, and the director of engineering, a woman named Colette who rarely joined anything unless something was on fire. My pulse jumped. My mouth went dry. The office around me felt suddenly too bright, too loud, too full of eyes that were not even looking at me. I knew what this was. Sterling was going to do what he always did. He was going to act surprised. He was going to sound disappointed. He was going to imply I was underperforming. He was going to push me into fixing everything again, quietly so he could look stable again. I sat at my desk 5 minutes before the meeting, staring at the join button. My thoughts raced like a trapped animal. What if they fire me? What if they say I am not a team player? What if they say the updated job document is valid? What if I lose my health insurance? What if I panic and say something wrong? Then I opened my folder labeled calm. Inside were the screenshots, Sterling's instruction, the HR update notification, the version history. My breathing slowed, not because I felt safe, because I felt prepared. The meeting started. Colette's face appeared on screen, expression unreadable. Sterling sat in a different room, too close to his camera, eyes bright in that way that meant he was ready to perform. He started with a sigh. We had a significant miss on a critical client deliverable this morning. He said it like a news anchor, like he was disappointed but objective. Colette looked at him, then she looked at me. Waverly, what happened? The question landed heavy like a gavel. Quick real-life pause. When I am editing these late at night, I get tired, and your comments are what keep me going. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. Alright, now let me take you back, because the truth is, this did not start with a missed deliverable. It started months earlier, in tiny moments Sterling thought I would forget. Like the time he praised me in private, then corrected me in public. Like the time he told me I was lucky to have stability. Like the time he said everyone has to do more these days, and smiled like it was wisdom. It started with me learning how to keep receipts, because my memory was not enough against someone else's confidence. In that meeting, staring at Colette's calm face, I felt the old urge to apologize, to smooth it over, to say I can fix it. I already fixed it. I will stay late. But Sterling had told me to do my job, so I did. I kept my voice steady. I kept my face neutral. I did not sound angry. I did not sound scared. I sounded like a professional reading a simple fact. On Thursday, I requested a market adjustment due to months of additional duties outside my role scope. Sterling instructed me in writing to focus strictly on core responsibilities in my contract, effective immediately. I followed that instruction. Sterling's smile flickered, just for a second, like a light losing power. Colette blinked once, slowly. Sterling leaned forward, voice sharpening. That is not what I meant. I did not argue. I did not raise my volume. I did not accuse him of lying. I shared my screen. The email appeared. Clean and undeniable. Confirmed. Focus on your core responsibilities. Then I clicked to the HR notification. Role document updated. The timestamp. The expanded duties. I watched Sterling's face tighten as if he was holding back something bitter. I watched Colette's eyes narrow. Not at me, but at him. My heart pounded so hard I felt it in my throat, but my hands were steady on the mouse. Colette spoke, calm as ice. Sterling, why was her role document updated after you instructed her to stick to her contract? Sterling opened his mouth. And for the first time since our lead engineer quit, Sterling had nothing ready. Sterling's lips parted, then closed again, like he was trying to catch a sentence before it escaped. His eyes darted to the corner of his screen, the place people look when they are scanning for an excuse. I felt my pulse pounding behind my ribs, but I kept my shoulders relaxed. I kept my voice inside my chest, not in my throat. The calmer I stayed, the more exposed he looked. Colette waited. She did not rescue him. She did not soften it. She just let the silence sit there, heavy in public. Finally, Sterling cleared his throat. It was an administrative cleanup. The responsibilities were already happening. We were just documenting reality. Documenting reality. Those words made something sour rise in my stomach, because that was exactly how he sold theft. He took what you were doing out of desperation, then called it policy. Colette did not look impressed. Administrative cleanup requires approval. Who approved it? Sterling's jaw tightened. He tried to smile like this was all very normal. I did not want to bother you with it. It is not a big deal. We are all stretched. Everyone is stepping up. There it was, the old spell. The guilt charm. The sentence that turned unpaid labor into a moral test. I could feel it tug at me out of habit. I could almost hear my own voice from months ago, apologizing for needing boundaries. My cheeks warmed with that familiar humiliation. The one that makes you want to shrink so you stop taking up air. I did not shrink, I said quietly. Colette, may I answer that? Colette nodded once. I kept my screen shared. I opened the HR system page that showed the change history. My cursor hovered over it for a second, like I was hesitating, even though I was not. Then I clicked. Sterling's name appeared next to the update request. My stomach went still. Even though I had suspected it, seeing it in black and white felt like watching someone pull a mask off in slow motion. Colette's eyes flicked to it. Her face did not change much, but her voice cooled. Sterling, you submitted this change. Sterling inhaled sharply like he had been slapped. I did it to protect the team, he said. So we are aligned. We cannot run on vibes and favors. We need accountability. Accountability. The word sounded clean, but it landed dirty. I felt anger flash hot behind my eyes. Not because he was trying to add duties. I already knew he wanted that. It was the way he said protect the team like I was the threat. Colette folded her hands in front of her. Waverly asked for a market adjustment. You denied it. Then you instructed her to focus only on her contract duties. Then you attempted to expand her duties without a compensation conversation. That is not alignment. That is coercion. The word coercion hit the air like a door slamming. Sterling's face reddened. That is dramatic, Colette. She is being difficult. She knows the system. She knows the interns are new. She knows we have deliverables. She chose to let things fail to make a point. My throat tightened. For a second, fear surged, sharp and animal. He was doing it. He was reframing my boundary as sabotage. I could almost see how it would play out if I panicked. Me explaining too much. Me getting emotional. Sterling using that emotion to label me unstable. So I did the opposite. I said I did not choose to let things fail. I chose to follow my manager's instructions instruction exactly as written. If that instruction creates a failure, that is not a personal flaw. That is a process problem. Sterling scoffed, but Colette held up a hand, stopping him without raising her voice. Then she asked the simplest question in the world. Sterling, did you assign the client export to Waverly as part of her core responsibilities? He hesitated. Just a beat, but it was enough, because hesitation is where truth leaks out. He said it has always been part of her work. I kept my face smooth. Inside, I felt something like grief, not for the job, for the way he could lie without blinking, and how long I had let that shape my life. I clicked to another file in my folder, a Slack message thread from weeks earlier, when he had sent me the client export script with a note that said, can you handle this until we hire someone senior again? Until we hire someone senior again. Temporary, extra, not mine. I highlighted that line. I did not add commentary. I did not say got you. I just let the words sit there. Sterling's eyes narrowed, but his shoulders stiffened too. He knew what was happening. He knew I had built a paper trail he could not talk over. Colette exhaled slowly. Okay, here is what we are going to do. Sterling, you and I will meet after this. Waverly, you will continue focusing on your contract duties for now. No extra tasks. No unofficial on-call. No client exports unless assigned through proper channels with a clear scope. Sterling leaned forward, voice rising. That is not realistic. She is the only one who knows how the old integration works. If she refuses, we are dead in the water. Colette's gaze held steady. Then we should have treated her like the person keeping us afloat, shouldn't we? Silence again. Sterling's face tightened, a small twitch near his jaw. My hands were cold, but my spine felt straight in a way it had not felt in months. Colette continued, Waverly, HR will schedule a role review, not a punishment. A reevaluation. We need to decide what your role actually is and what it should be paid. Sterling opened his mouth, but Colette ended the meeting. That is all. Thank you. The screen went blank. For a second, I just stared at my reflection in the dark monitor. My eyes looked wide and bright like I had been running. My heart was still racing, and my body felt both heavy and weightless, like shock was draining out. I stood up slowly as if sudden movement might crack something fragile inside me. The office around me was the same as it had been that morning. People typing, printers humming, the break room microwave beeping faintly somewhere down the hall, but my world had shifted. I walked to the restroom, locked myself in a stall, and pressed my forehead to the cool metal divider. My breath came out in a shaky exhale. I did not cry. I almost did. The tears sat right behind my eyes burning, but they did not fall, because relief can feel like grief. Sometimes the body does not know which one it is holding. When I came back to my desk, my inbox had a new message from HR. Subject line, role clarification meeting. My throat tightened again, but this time it was not fear. It was recognition. This was the part where they decide whether I am worth protecting or whether I am easier to replace. A message from Sterling appeared right after. We need to talk. Stop playing games. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. My first instinct was to respond, to smooth, to explain, to make him calm so my day could be quiet again. Then I remembered how quiet my day had been when I gave him what he wanted. Not peace, control. I typed one sentence. I am available to discuss role scope during the scheduled HR process. Then I stopped. I did not add anything else. He did not reply. Not right away. An hour later, Holland pinged me again. Hey, I am sorry. Sterling told us you were refusing to help because you were mad about money. I did not know. I think I get it now. Are you okay? I stared at her message and felt a sharp ache in my chest because that was one of the worst parts. Sterling had been feeding the interns a version of me that made me look selfish. He was building a story where my boundaries were cruelty. I typed carefully. I am okay. You did nothing wrong. You are learning in a messy situation, and that is not your fault. Then I added one more line softer. If you ever feel pressured to take on work that scares you, ask for it in writing. It protects you. She responded with a single word. Thank you. I sat back and for a moment the office noise faded. I could almost hear my own thoughts again. And that is when the third twist arrived. The one that made my stomach drop. A calendar invite popped up for the HR meeting. Attendees included me, Sterling, and someone from legal. Legao, my mouth went dry. Of course, Sterling could not win on facts, so he was bringing in weight, paper, authority. The kind of people who speak in careful sentences and make you feel small without raising their voice. I forced myself to breathe. In through my nose, out through my mouth. I opened my folder again, calm. I added a new subfolder inside it labeled timeline. I started saving everything in chronological order, with dates written out in words in the file names, so it was clear and human and hard to dismiss. Sterling's instruction, HR update notification, Slack thread about temporary coverage, the client export script, the intern messages where he redirected their questions to me. All of it. Then I did one more thing, the quietest move of all. I printed my contract, not to wave it around, not to make a scene, just to have it on the table in front of me when they tried to rewrite reality again. The HR meeting was set for Monday morning. That gave Sterling a weekend to plan his version of the story. It also gave me a weekend to decide something I had avoided for months. I could win this meeting and still lose myself. I sat in my car after work, hands on the steering wheel, looking at the parking lot lights reflecting off windshields. I felt exhausted all the way into my bones. I felt proud too, in a cautious way. Like pride was a flame I had to cup with my palms so the wind could not kill it. My phone buzzed with another message from Sterling. If you want to stay here, you will stop this and do what needs to be done. I stared at it until the screen dimmed. Then I deleted it from my lock screen without replying, because I finally understood the real leverage was not whether they needed me. It was whether I still needed them. Monday morning arrived with the kind of quiet that feels like a warning. The office looked normal, but my body did not. My shoulders were tight, my jaw ached from clenching in my sleep, and my stomach felt hollow, like I had already used up all my courage before I even walked in. I did not bring coffee. I did not bring small talk. I brought my printed contract, my timeline folder, and a calm face that took practice in the elevator mirror. HR booked the meeting in a windowless conference room, the kind with a long table, a speakerphone nobody trusts, and a faint smell of dry erase marker that never goes away. When I walked in, Sterling was already there. He sat with his laptop open, posture confident like he owned the room. Beside him sat a woman from HR, Greer, with a neat notepad and careful eyes. Across from them sat a man I had never met, Dashel, who looked like legal, quiet suit, polished watch, the expression of someone who never raises their voice because they do not have to. Colette joined last. She entered like a decision, set her laptop down, and nodded at me once. That small nod steadied my breathing more than any meditation app ever had. Greer started with a warm tone that felt rehearsed. Thank you, everyone. The purpose of this meeting is role clarification and alignment. We want to ensure expectations are clear and fair. Fair. The word landed softly, but I felt its weight. I knew how companies use that word. Fair could mean, we will offer you something small and hope you are grateful. Fair Claire could mean, we will pretend this is mutual while we corner you. Sterling spoke next, not waiting. Waverly has been a valued team member, but recently there have been performance gaps, missed deliverables, a lack of responsiveness. It has impacted the team. He said it smoothly, like reading bullet points like I was a slide. I did not flinch. I did not interrupt. I watched him talk, the same way you watch a magician patter while you track their hands. Dashiell glanced at me. Waverly, do you agree with that characterization? This was the trap. If I defended myself emotionally, Sterling would label me defensive. If I apologized, he would call it accountability and move on to rewriting my job. So I used the quietest weapon I had, clarity. I said, I agree that some deliverables were missed. I do not agree that it was a performance issue. It was a scope issue created by management instruction. Sterling's eyes narrowed. Greer lifted her pen slightly. Can you explain? I slid my contract onto the table, not dramatically, just enough for it to be present. Then I opened my laptop and shared my screen because I knew Sterling preferred talking. Talking lets him bend reality. Screens do not. I said on Thursday, I asked for a market adjustment based on sustained work outside my role. Sterling instructed me in writing to focus strictly on core responsibilities in my contract. I asked for confirmation and he confirmed. I followed that instruction. I pulled up the email, the subject line, the confirmation. Sterling's face tightened, but he stayed silent. Then I pulled up the next item, the updated role document in the HR system, with Sterling listed as the requester, timestamped after our conversation. I did not accuse him of anything. I did not call him unethical. I just showed the sequence. Greer's eyebrows lifted slightly. Colette's mouth pressed into a thin line. Dashiell leaned back a fraction, like he was recalculating. Sterling tried again, voice sharper. We were documenting reality. She was already doing those tasks. Colette spoke, calm and direct. Sterling, you cannot deny compensation for expanded duties. Instruct someone to stop doing those duties, then expand the paper record of their duties after the fact. That is not role clarification. That is damage control. Sterling looked at Greer, like he expected HR to back him up the way it always had. Greer did not. She asked a simple question. Sterling, why did you tell Waverly to focus only on contract duties? Sterling's throat bobbed. Because she was distracted. She was making everything about money. I felt anger rise, but I kept it low and clean. I said, it was about money because money is how companies measure value. I was asked to carry senior responsibilities for months. I did it. I documented it. I asked for alignment. I was told to stop. So I stopped. Dashiell spoke, still calm. What outcome are you seeking, Waverly? I took a breath. I did not oversell. I did not plead. I did not threaten. I said, I want my responsibilities to match my title and compensation. If you want me to do senior operational work, client exports, and build stabilization, then the role should be updated properly with appropriate pay and with clear support. If you want me to remain a data analyst, then those tasks need to be reassigned and resourced. Sterling scoffed under his breath. Colette did not look at him when she responded. That is reasonable. Greer tapped her pen once, thoughtful. Okay, then we should talk numbers. Sterling leaned forward, almost relieved, like he had steered us back into a place where he could bargain me down. We can offer a small adjustment, he said, and in exchange, the updated role document becomes effective immediately. Full scope. No exceptions. We need someone dependable. My stomach tightened again. There it was. A small adjustment for a permanent double job. Felt the old fear try to push words out of my mouth. The reflex to accept anything just to make the tension stop. Instead, I asked one question, quiet and careful. When you say small adjustment, what responsibilities will be removed from my workload to make the role sustainable? Sterling blinked, caught off guard. Removed. He did not have an answer because he had never planned to remove anything. He had planned to rename my exhaustion as commitment. Colette turned to him. Sterling, what is your plan to support this workload? Who is taking client exports? Who is owning build failures? Who is mentoring interns when Waverly is deep in legacy code? Sterling's face flushed. She is the support, he snapped. That is why we need her to step up. And that was the moment the room changed, because he said the quiet part out loud. Dashiell's expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. Greer's voice stayed polite, but cooler. Sterling, that is not an answer. Colette leaned slightly forward. Here is the reality. We are under-resourced. Waverly has been covering the gap. That gap is not her fault. If we want her to continue covering it, we pay for it. If we cannot pay for it, we hire. If we cannot hire, we accept reduced output and manage client expectations. Those are the options. Sterling opened his mouth, but Greer cut in gently. Waverly, do you have a compensation expectation? I did. I had researched. I had numbers. I had the market ranges, but I also knew saying a number first lets them anchor you low. And I was done being anchored, so I answered like this. I have a range based on market data for the responsibilities you are asking me to perform. I can share it. But before we discuss compensation, I need confirmation that any role change includes defined scope, defined hours, and defined support. I will not agree to an unlimited role. Dashiell nodded slightly like he respected the phrasing. Greer wrote something down. Sterling looked like he wanted to argue, but Colette spoke first. Agreed. Greer looked up. Okay, here's what we can do. We can offer a formal promotion to a senior analyst track with an operational stipend while we hire an engineer. This would be temporary and time-bounded. After that period, either the engineer is hired and operational duties return to engineering, or we renegotiate the role again. All in writing. I felt my heart thud hard because it sounded like the first real acknowledgement of what I had been doing, but I also heard the danger in temporary. Temporary can become forever if you let it. I said if it is time-bounded, then it needs a written end date and a written definition of what happens if hiring does not occur. Greer nodded again, this time with a hint of respect. That is fair? Sterling's voice turned icy. This is getting out of hand. She is making demands. I looked at him finally, and I kept my voice soft. I am making boundaries. You called it core responsibilities. I am just taking those words seriously. Colette's eyes flicked to Sterling, and something in her expression said, you did this to yourself. Greer said, we will draft an updated offer letter with the compensation adjustment, a defined scope, and a timeline. Waverly, you will review it. If you accept, we move forward. If not, we discuss a transition plan. Transition plan. That phrase landed, and my stomach dipped again, but not from fear, from clarity, because I had already started planning my exit. I nodded. That afternoon, I went back to my desk and did my core duties. I built dashboards. I cleaned data sets. I did not touch the build logs. I did not respond to intern panic unless it was within my scope. When they asked for help outside it, I politely redirected them to Sterling. The office felt strange, like I had stepped out of a play where I used to know all my lines. Then late in the day, Reed messaged me again. Hey, just a heads up. Sterling is furious. He is telling people you are trying to get him in trouble. I stared at the message and felt something like sadness, because of course he was. He was not upset that things had been unfair. He was upset that I had stopped absorbing the unfairness quietly. I typed back, I am not trying to get anyone in trouble. I am trying to be paid for my job. Reed replied, good, because someone should have said it sooner. The offer letter arrived by email the next day. It was better than I expected. A title change, a raise that actually moved the needle, a written commitment to hire an engineer, a clear statement that operational responsibilities were temporary and would be reassessed, a clause stating no additional duties outside scope without mutual written agreement. I read it 3 times. My hands were steady. Then I noticed one line that made my stomach twist. It said I would report directly to Sterling. Of course, Sterling would still be the gatekeeper, the one who could punish me in subtle ways, the one who could reframe every boundary as attitude. I sat there staring at that line, feeling the old fear creep in again, because you can win on paper and still lose in daily life. So I did one last quiet move. I replied to Greer and included Colette. Thank you. I have one requested change. I would like to report directly to Colette during the temporary operational period. Given the conflict of interest created by the role document update and the previous instruction to restrict scope, this will ensure clarity and avoid future miscommunication. I did not call it retaliation. I did not call it misconduct. I called it miscommunication. Within an hour, Greer responded. Approved. I sat back in my chair and exhaled a breath I felt like I had been holding for months. Sterling did not speak to me that day. Not once. The next morning, Colette asked me to step into her office. Her door was open. That alone felt like a message. She did not waste time. You did the right thing, she said, and I am sorry nobody stepped in sooner. My throat tightened. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Then she added the final twist, the one that made my skin go cold. We audited recent client communications. Sterling has been presenting your work as his in external updates. He used your reports and your stabilization plans to reassure clients without crediting you. That is going to stop. I sat there stunned. I had suspected he took credit internally, but externally to clients, using my work as his credibility. That was a deeper betrayal than I had prepared myself for. Colette continued. Calm Sterling is being removed from direct oversight of this work stream. He will not be involved in your performance review this cycle, and he will not be in meetings where your deliverables are discussed without you present. I swallowed hard. What happens to him? Colette held my gaze. That is not your responsibility. And she was right. For the first time, someone in power was drawing a boundary for me. Over the next few weeks, an engineer was hired. The interns were reassigned proper mentors. The client export became someone else's problem again. My hours returned to something close to human. Sterling avoided me in hallways like I was a mirror he did not want to look into. And then, one Friday afternoon, as I was packing up, I got a message from Greer. Quick update. Sterling has accepted a role change. He will no longer manage people. No announcement, no drama. Just a quiet removal of the privilege he had abused. I stared at the message and felt something unexpected. Not joy. Relief. Because the best revenge was not watching him suffer. It was watching the system stop rewarding him. That weekend, I sat on my couch with my laptop open to a different email thread. A recruiter. A new offer. Higher pay. Better culture, at least on paper. A team that actually had enough people to do the work. I had options now, and that was the real ending. On Monday, I accepted the new offer and scheduled a resignation meeting. Not because I was angry. Not because I wanted to burn the place down, but because I had learned something I could not unlearn. A company that only values you when you stop saving it does not deserve your loyalty. When I handed in my resignation, I kept it short and polite. I thanked them for the opportunity. I gave notice. I offered a transition document. I did not explain myself. Sterling did not attend the meeting. Colette did. She nodded once, the same small nod as before. I understand, she said, and I am glad you chose yourself. On my last day, Holland hugged me in the parking lot, eyes glossy. You taught me more than anyone here, she whispered. Not just about work. About not letting them make you feel crazy. I hugged her back, and I felt something settle inside me, firm and final. I drove away without looking back, and for the first time in a long time, my phone stayed silent, and the silence did not feel like fear. Now, I am going to step out of the story for a second and talk like it is just you and me, because this kind of situation messes with your head. When someone in power keeps moving the goalposts, you start questioning your own instincts. You start thinking maybe you are the problem for wanting fairness. Maybe you are greedy. Maybe you are difficult. That is how they keep you working past your limits. They do not need chains. They just need you to doubt yourself. What changed everything for me was not being louder. It was being clearer. Screenshots, timelines, calm questions, one-sentence emails that could not be twisted. I stopped trying to win emotionally, and I started protecting reality. And once you protect reality, they cannot gaslight you as easily. They can still try. But it gets harder when the truth is organized. And the biggest lesson is this. Your loyalty will not save you. Your silence will not protect you. Your overwork will not earn you respect from someone who benefits from your exhaustion. Respect starts when you respect yourself enough to put it in writing, and then act like your boundaries matter.